Go, Louie, go. Get us go.
I thought so.
Franklin Pierce, Steve D'Agostino had 20 points. The game of basketball has drastically changed over the years, but for one Hudson man, his passion for the sport has never waned. This is 86-year-old Wilson Harpy Shea, who continues to referee boys basketball games in Columbia County after more than 60 years on the job. Shea used to officiate varsity games, but nowadays Harpy can be found working the modifieds. Shea spent 47 years employed at the old V&O Press in Hudson. He is still an active volunteer firefighter, but it's basketball that he loves. After 6 decades on the job, Harpy is still blowing his whistle, but not tooting his own horn.
The biggest change in the basketball, the kids
watch the professionals now, and they're trying to do what the professionals do. And the high school boys don't allow that. They put their hands on the guy. That's against the rules. You're supposed to call them. You're not supposed to let them get away with that.
I never worked with him when he was doing the higher level games earlier in his career, but it's amazing that he still is out here and he loves being around the kids.
I don't find it difficult. When I do, that's when I'll quit.
Here's Maines with a second left at the buzzer. It's good! No good. Rebound Hedgepath. 4 seconds left. Here's Maines with a second left at the buzzer. It's good! It's good! It counts! Isaiah Maines with the three-pointer as the buzzer sounds, ending the game, giving Hudson a 58-57 victory.
What are all these kids doing out here?
Well, all these kids are here because they've done a fantastic job at school. They've earned PBIS tickets, and they're here to view a sumo wrestling match in air suits.
They're real enthused about this.
They are super excited. We've been pumping it up all week. We had a video go out to the kids telling them why we're all going to win. They voted for who's going to win, and they all know, of course, that Mr. Brenneman's going to win because he's the boss.
So what's the object?
The object is to push your opponent out of the square. First one out of the square loses.
Are you hopeful you're still going to win?
I'm just hopeful that everyone's going to have a great time. Whoever wins, wins. It'll be fun for the kids, fun for the adults, and just a good thing to bring the whole school together.
Ladies and gentlemen, and kids of all ages, now entering the arena, standing 5 feet 9.5 inches tall, and weighing in at a solid 180 pounds, a man who needs no introduction, a man who uses pepper spray to season his meat at dinner. A man so tough that when he slices onions, the onions cry. A man that all principals aspire to be but can't. A man so feared that the boogeyman checks under his bed for him at night. The smooth, the strong, the brave, the enforcer of pain, the titan of terror. The King of France, your own MCSDS boy in blue, Officer Ross! average 20 years younger than any other competitor here today. Mr. Brenneman might have been his principal, but he is not afraid to make him see scars. His biceps would rip all over Mr. McCormick's suit if he ever tried to wear them. He broke off his aroused shoulder, keeping him out of work for an entire summer and requiring shoulder surgery just by giving him a high five. Miss Lopa, I respect you, but I'm going to have to respectfully defeat you today. Ladies love him. Men want to beat him. The undisputed, undefeated, middleweight champion of the world, Deputy Soja! Direct your attention to our entryway, because now entering your arena, weighing 200 pounds, Mrs. Close. It isn't the mountains ahead to climb that you wear out. It isn't the pebble in your shoe. Spread kindness like confetti. Do the right thing when nobody's looking. Keep persevering and working hard even when it's tough. Introducing Mrs. And now entering the arena weighing in at 173 pounds, undefeated in 63 pounds, current undisputed Greene County Super Middleweight Champion with a record in Greene County of 39,014 submissions. He was great before he knew he was great. He's so fast that last night he turned off the light switch in his bedroom and got into bed before the room was dark. The man that can ride and wrap it up. The man who floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee. The man who apologized to after you woke up if you were ever to dream of beating him. The one, the only, the amazing, the handsome, the most epic AD known to mankind. Introducing the magnificent Matt entering the arena, the man who is not the greatest, he's the double greatest. Not only does he knock him out, he kicks the time. He's the oldest, the prettiest, the most superior, most scientific, most skillful fighter in both suits today. It's hard to be humble when you're as great as he is. He did something new for this fight. He wrestled an alligator. He tussled a whale. He handcuffed lightning. He threw thunder in jail. Only last week he murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. He's so mean, he makes medicine sick. The Raymond M.C. Smith heavyweight sumo champ. Introducing Brass Knuckles Roman. And our first match is ready to begin. Is to direct your attention to the center of our ring. Our referee is about to get things started. We've got off the mark. What do we got going here? We've got our contestants ready to go in our match. Get ready to rumble! Oh, basically, leading and everybody away, referee steps in and break up right. Oh. Jackson's passing him furiously. Really, they're not paying attention. You're going to miss it quick. It looks like we're having a change in we're changing up, getting 2 more contestants into our bubbles. Our foreigners are being positioned. And they're on. Listen to Palmer, listen to Walpole, thanks for that. Checking with our judges, we make someone step out. And we have an announcement here, Naisha Johnson. Jones. Naisha Jones. Did I get that right? Naisha Jones. You're actually asked to report for going home. Naisha Jones. Number 2 decades going into. Let's make some noise for him, people! Make some noise! He's got a match here. He's got a match head to head. The boys in blue. Somebody steps in to break it up. So we've got a great match here, people. Who will it be? Who wants it more? Goes to Deputy Soldier. Mr. Brennan, Mr. Zahotra. McCormick, Mr. McCormick to the ring. He's not out. Let's cheer him on. Let's cheer him on. Here's some noise. Well, match goes to Mr. McCormick. Mr. Brennan. Let's make some noise! Entering the ring now, we have Mr. McCormick and Officer Zahotra. Let's make some noise, people. Let's get it down towards the end. Very simple, who will be victorious? Mr. McCormick! Officer Ramos Bobo to the arena! the whole truck. Big contact. Oh, some fancy footwork, but couldn't save it. Mr. Brenneman once again is victorious. This is for the championship. And it's come down to our final contestants. Let's make some noise. This is for all the bragging rights people. This is for who will be the Grandmaster, the champion, for all of the bragging rights, for the Bubble Sumo Wrestling Champion of the World. We have Mr. McCormick and Mr. Brenneman. Let's make some noise. Get ready to rumble.
Hello, my name is Rob Gillis, and I'm at the Riverfront Park in Hudson, New York. Despite being over 100 miles from the Atlantic Ocean, Hudson was an important whaling port in the late 18th to early 19th centuries. Today, the official seal of the city of Hudson is a whale. You can also see a symbol of a whale on the street signs in Hudson and above the door of a retail store on Warren Street. The city of Hudson had its beginning as a small Dutch hamlet called Claverick Landing on the Hudson River. It was a land grant secured from Native Americans in 1662. Before the American Revolution, most of the whaling commerce was between the island of Nantucket and Great Britain. With the beginning of the war, Nantucket had been blockaded by the British Navy. Many of the whaling ships were forced to remain in port. Others were boarded at sea and their crews impressed into the British Navy. When the war ended, the Nantucket whalers hoped to regain their whaling trade. However, Great Britain imposed a heavy tariff on whale oil. This was a blow to Nantucket's economy. A group of merchants decided to leave the island with their families and find a place free from the threat of the British Navy. Two brothers, Seth and Thomas Jenkins, were selected to look for a deep water port along the Hudson River. They first checked an area along Manhattan, but it proved to be too expensive to purchase. However, they decided on Claverick Landing. They included whaling merchants from Providence, Rhode Island, and Martha's Vineyard. These New England settlers became to be known as the proprietors. The proprietors quickly set up a grid of planned streets and divided building lots among themselves. Houses were constructed along the waterfront and on the streets heading inland from the river. The proprietors renamed Claverick Landing Hudson in honor of the explorer Henry Hudson. In 1785, the city of Hudson was charted. Hudson attracted all kinds of shipping and commerce. This included shipbuilding, sail-making, rope-making, and whaling. By 1786, Hudson boasted a fleet of 25 whaling vessels. In 1790, the city of Hudson became a port of entry and had a population of 2,500. The majority of the whales that were hunted were sperm whales, large, toothed animals whose huge heads contained a most valuable liquid called spermaceti. It was processed to make candles that burned cleanly and had high illuminating power. The spermaceti candles were in great demand in America and abroad in Europe. The oil from sperm whale blubber was used in public lighting and private lighting. Also, ambergris, a solid, waxy, flammable substance produced in the digestive system of whales, was used in making expensive perfumes. The teeth of the sperm whale were valued as a source of engraved artwork created by whalers called scrimshaw. Now, for an in-depth explanation of the whale hunt, I interviewed Eric J. Dolan, the author of the book Leviathan, The History of Whaling in America.
The whalemen were out on their whale ships. There would be one or two men at the top of the main mast on the cross trees. They'd be looking out towards the horizon, trying to find a telltale spout of a whale in the distance, and if they saw that spout, that mist rising up into the air, they would yell "whale off" or "whale in the distance," and they would point in the direction where the whale was seen, so the people down on the deck below would be made aware of that, and then there'd be a race on board because there were multiple whale boats, these 24, 25 foot long, half-inch cedar clapboard rowboats, essentially, that were hanging off davits on the side of the whale ship, and there'd be multiple crews that would hop into their whale boats. They'd be lowered down into the water, and there'd be a race to get to the whale first, because the whaleboat crew that got to the whale first sometimes got a little extra incentive, and they certainly got bragging rights. Once they got within sight of the whale, they had to be very careful, but they also had to go very close, because you couldn't throw a harpoon from 30 or 40 feet away and expect it to do any damage or really stick into the whale, because whales, even though they're surrounded by blubber, it's not like our fat. It's not soft. It's very dense and fibrous. So if you wanted a harpoon to go into a whale deep, which was necessary to get a good hold, you had to be within maybe 10 or 15 feet, if not closer, to the whale. It was something called skin to black skin, or the wood to black skin. You wanted to get the boat right up next to the whale, and then the harpooner would rear back and he'd pitch his harpoon into the flank of the whale, and if he had time and was lucky, he would be able to pitch a second harpoon, and these harpoons were attached to the whale boat by a rope, which is coiled inside of the boat, and the harpooned whale, of course, would immediately take off. It would try to get away from this boat, and that's where the Nantucket sleigh ride, so-called, would begin, because the rope would be tied off the bow of the whaleboat, and wherever the whale went, the whaleboat would follow, sometimes racing as fast as 15 or 20 knots, and being one of the fastest things on the ocean, at least human things on the ocean. Hopefully, the whale wouldn't sound. If the whale sounded, which meant dive, then the whaleman could be in serious trouble. And that's why there was always a person standing at the bow of the boat with a hatchet in his hand, because if the whale decided to go down into the depths, they didn't want the whaleboat to be dragged down after it. So they would cut the rope and hopefully save the whaleboat. But there were instances in which whaleboats were dragged right under the water. And that was very dangerous for the men, because many whalemen in the late 1700s and early 1800s, and even in the mid 1800s, did not know how to swim. So it if they landed in the water and they didn't grab onto something that floated, they might very well drown. So let's say that you are attached to the whale is pulling the whale boat, it tires out the whale. After a while, the boat pulls in closer and closer because the whale is not going as fast. And then when they get very close to the whale, the boat header will take a lance, which is a long pole at the end of which is a very sharp knife or blade, and they will thrust it into the whale, looking for the life of the whale, which is either the lungs or a knot of blood vessels that are near the lungs. And success will show itself as a geyser of blood coming out of the whale's blowhole. If you were dealing with a sperm whale, there was trouble at both ends because there was the battering ram of the head and there was the big jaw, which would be chomping around. So sometimes whale boats got stuck in a whale's jaw and were chomped. And they also had a very powerful tail, which was called by whalemen the hand of God, because if it came down on your whale boat, you were going to meet your maker. So at the end of this final flurry, if the whale died, it would go fin out, and then it would be towed back to the mother ship. And once at the mother ship, the processing would begin. They would basically tie the whale up to the side of the ship. They'd have the cutting stages out, and they'd start slicing the whale's blubber off, sort of like taking the rind of an orange off or an apple in one continuous swirl, bringing the heavy blanket pieces of blubber higher and higher, then cutting them lengthwise and bringing them on board, where the processing would continue. The blubber would be cut into smaller and smaller pieces, and then it would be pitched into a tripod, which has it's an iron tripod, which has a fire underneath it. That would melt down all of the blubber. They would siphon off the oil, put it in casks to be held below. With the sperm whale in particular, they would also cut off the head of the sperm whale. They would bring the jaw, because the jaw had sperm whale teeth in it. Those teeth were not valuable commercially, but they were used by the whalemen to make scrimshaw and other products that were either sent home to their sweethearts or sometimes sold as trinkets when they got back from the whaling voyage. But the main prize came within the head of the sperm whale, and that was the spermaceti organ. They would cut a hole in the top of the bulbous head of the sperm whale, and one of the smallest guys on the ship, sometimes a boy, would actually dunk himself into the spermaceti organ and scoop out this spermaceti oil, which was very thick and white. And then actually some people believe that that's where the term spermaceti comes from, because it reminded them of sperm, but there are other theories as well. Basically, after many hours, sometimes trying out of a whale could take an entire day, if not longer. And these whale ships were kind of smelled before they were seen, because as you can imagine, the burning of flesh has a very acrid odor, and it's wafting over the ocean. So burning out at night, they would present a very sort of spooky scene on the ocean, because in the distance you would see bright light in the center of the ship, which is where the tryworks were, from the flames that were boiling down all of the whale blubber, and then smoke rising from the deck of the ship.
The whaling vessels were designed to carry a large crew of men, up to 37 individuals, and store hundreds of barrels of whale oil. The large whale ships were the three-masted square riggers. These ships would be out on whale voyages of several years. A slightly smaller vessel used in whaling was a bark. Then there was the two-masted brig. The smallest vessel was the schooner that would be out for 6 months. It was much more economical to outfit and had a smaller crew. Whaling ships from Hudson sailed the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans in search of sperm whales. The period from 1786 through 1817 saw the greatest activity. However, it trailed off due to a general downturn of Hudson's economy. However, in 1830, the whaling trade picked up again. It ended with the last whaling ship returning to Hudson in 1845. There are several reasons why whaling ended in Hudson. By the 1840s, New Bedford, Massachusetts had become the largest whaling center in the United States. It was more profitable to sail whaling ships from its large wharfs than to sail up the Hudson River. Another reason was an alternative illuminating oil called camphene, a blend of turpentine and alcohol that came on the market in the mid-1830s. It was much cheaper than whale oil and was produced in great quantities. Whale oil lamps could easily be upgraded to use camphene. The whaling trade profited Hudson for 60 years. It was the main reason for its founding. Today, it is important to remember those New England whalers who sailed up the Hudson River and established the city of Hudson.